up? It's your girl, Sasha Banks, the legit boss. You are watching Going In Raw. You like that?
Hey, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going In Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to right here at youtube.com/Steve and Larson. Available wherever podcasts can be found and filmed live on the Twitch, twitch.tv/Steve and Larson, where Jeffrey Nguyen just dropped a ton of gifted subs.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey.
On our friendos, and a bunch of other people are subbing. So follow us over there at the Twitch, man. It's always a good time. Play some tunes beforehand. And if you follow us over there too, on Saturday nights now, I do Unsolved Mystery streams with the Enforcer. That's a lot of fun. So shout out to the Enforcer also for hanging out with us for our Hell in a Cell live reactions today earlier on YouTube. That was a lot of fun. All the friendos for hanging out with us. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, and Hell in a Cell in general is a pay-per-view. We got ourselves a new WWE champion and a new SmackDown Women's champion. Let's start with that first one, man. You said you felt that match was a bit of a slog, but not a bad match. For some reason, I thought that the ambulance match was a much more of a slog.
That was a slog too. They both. I mean, it was Orton, in particular, works
methodically.
A methodical pace. Thank you. A methodical pace, more or less, always has. His pretty awesome match against Edge, best match ever, was a bit of an outlier. Let's say he hasn't had good matches in his career. He has. Orton can put on a good match. He just works a more methodical pace, and this was that. The story being told here was a hard-hitting affair where Randy Orton was just a bit more crafty than Drew, willing to go that extra step that Drew might not have gone to get the win.
Drew kind of
looked,
yeah, he kind of looked like an asshole by the end of this because
he did a little bit.
Randy,
I think it's compounded too with the ambulance match where Drew essentially needed the help of a bunch of legends to get that win.
Yeah, this was, Randy had said this in a promo a couple weeks ago. You need to win this, Drew, to solidify your legacy. My legacy is already solid. And Drew came up short. Randy's now the champion. Drew has been an absolutely terrific champion.
Yeah, he's been great.
I don't know if this is the last that we've seen of him for now as champion. I don't know. They might trade this back and forth a little bit. What's your take on where this is going to go next?
This is definitely not the last we've seen of Drew as champion. I think he's done as about as good as one could expect given the situation. I think he's exceeded basically every expectation. He's carried himself like a top guy. He is a top guy. He's put on some really, really fun matches. As far as his title reign, in my estimation, it's been an absolute home run. He's really established himself as one of the faces of WWE during this title reign. Now, I guess the conversation leads to, are they going to use... Is Orton going to carry this belt to whenever he inevitably faces Edge again? Is this going to lead to Orton Edge for the title? Someone here in chat mentioned earlier, is Bray going to interject himself, especially given the ample history he has with Randall Keith Orton? There's various directions they can go. I guess they can have, they'll do Bray, they do Bray Randy, have Bray take the title off him, maybe have Drew face Bray at Mania, and if they have Mania in front of a crowd, Drew can finally get that Mania moment with the crowd that, if circumstances were different, he would have gotten this year when he defeated Brock Lesnar.
It all depends on, obviously on how Vince feels as Drew as a champion. I'd really love to see him win it back when there's fans around. You can go any number of ways. Tonight was actually a really consequential show because we have a new Money in the Bank champion, or Money in the Bank contract holder.
Yeah, briefcase holder.
With The Miz. That was a shocking turn of events. I thought that, some of us in chat and somebody in our YouTube comments felt that Miz would win. And then, given the brutal nature of Hell in a Cell, by the end of that one, Drew wins, Miz cashes in, which is kind of what I had said was a possibility as well. That didn't happen because Drew lost his championship. Now, if Drew had hit that Claymore and picked up the 3, he was in a perfect position. This is all in storyline, being beat up enough to have a hard time with Miz and Morrison. And that's how I saw it potentially playing out. That didn't happen. Randy Orton looked like he barely broke a sweat by the end of this.
Yeah.
But you've got a bad guy with the briefcase. You got a bad guy with the championship. You got a bad guy over on SmackDown. If Miz thinks he's going to cash in on Roman Reigns, he's got another thing coming.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of great pieces that are potentially in place here. I agree with you. Drew's been a great champion, and I want to see it again.
Fantastic. Here's something I'll posit to you. So let's say the plan is for right now, Drew gets his another title shot at Mania in front of fans. He wins. Huge moment for Drew. Coronation, so on and so forth. Let's say, the trajectory of coronavirus currently, where I think a lot of states are already starting to see the start of what's probably going to be a pretty rough fall and winter. In terms of more cases, new cases. So, there's a lot of states that are starting the process of opening up or have already opened up. Florida has pretty much said, hey, sports venues, have at it. You can open the doors to everybody if you want to. Depending if that gets bad, WWE comes to find out, well, we can't do Mania in front of fans anymore.
Oh, that's not going to happen.
Well,
they're going to have fans at Mania. Let's
happening. See. I'm just putting this out there. So now they got the situation where Miz has the briefcase. They have that in their back pocket. So if they have the situation where Drew is at Mania at Thunderdome, just follow along with me, and they really want him to have his moment in front of fans. Maybe not at Mania, but it's a fan because they think the place is going to explode when he wins. He can win whatever match at Mania. Miz cashes in then, gets all that heel heat for denying Drew a moment, and then once they have fans again, bang, Drew beats Miz for the title, has this huge moment.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like, I don't know, I think that Randy's, if he's going to beat anybody, it's got to be Orton because of this feud. It's been so big. So, yeah, I don't know. Like you said, Edge is going to be on the way back soon. There's a lot of moving pieces. Who knows how this is going to fall into place. You got the Fiend there as well. And
AJ Styles, you got a lot of people.
It wouldn't surprise me
Raw
right now if Drew tries to get a rematch but gets sidetracked by the Fiend. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Somebody else steps up. I'm trying to think, what other faces do they have on
That was
Raw?
the thing, because in the draft, Raw brought over a ton of heels.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, they're lineup challengers for Drew between now and Mania. I mean, that's how I read all that.
O-Dog suggests Keith Lee. Keith Lee and Braun have a thing. If Keith Lee gets a couple of decisive victories out of Braun Strowman, I mean, at the next, you got Survivor Series, so you could potentially do, and who wouldn't want to see Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns? Obviously, you can have Randy Orton. Maybe that's part of the thing. Maybe they really want to do brand versus brand. If they only did Raw versus SmackDown and left NXT out of it, that'd be a shame. But if they did that, Roman could there's no shame in having Randy Orton lose to Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is the guy. And it's a dream match. I mean, in terms of
maybe they wanted
these
to save
two
Drew
champions
from taking that loss. I could be.
Yeah. That could be. I don't know. I think there's a lot of interesting pieces in place. What'd you think of Hell in a Cell in general? I thought that we had three really, really, really match of the year candidate for sure.
Yeah. Sasha and Bayley was outstanding. I thought the storytelling in Roman versus Jey, again, it was another slower match, but the payoff at the end I thought was executed really well. It was kind of the inverse of what we saw at Clash with Jimmy and Jey, and it's interesting to see where that goes from here. Are the Usos going to bend the knee, fall in line behind Roman, or are they going to get kicked out of the family? There's some intrigue there. Sasha and Bayley put on a damn clinic. In Sasha's 3 Hell in a Cell matches, we've seen some incredibly creative stuff.
Oh yeah. The match was long and it never dragged.
It never did.
It was obvious. It was obvious that they devised and walked through the Hell in a Cell and just came up with so many creative spots to go through, and they didn't stop for a second. That match was excellent. It was so good. We do have a new SmackDown Women's Champion in Sasha Banks, and And Bayley at this point, if the graphic I read was correct, she is the longest reigning in number of combined days
SmackDown
as champion across all the belts, NXT, SmackDown, Raw, everything. Mm-hmm. She's only number 2 to Fabulous Moolah's ridiculous reign.
She owned the belt.
She owned the belt.
She owned the belt.
But in terms of people who have been champion the longest, she's like the Bruno now. So
900 and something days.
Something like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So that's great. I could easily see her winning at this point the Royal Rumble to come back to Sasha to set up what should be the WrestleMania main event, because they'd kill it. I don't know that it will be, because you got Roman and The Rock probably main eventing, but that's going to be the show stealer for sure if they decide to wait that long. I hope they do. I think that I'm trying to think who else is on SmackDown. They just had the draft now, so I'm trying to think who else is on SmackDown as a face that could sort of steal, unless they want to do like a really, really long program with matches at every pay-per-view between now and WrestleMania. I kind of feel like you need to lay off that a little bit, let these two reconvene.
Yeah. I mean, the most likely challenger after Bayley, you think that'd be Bianca Belair.
Bianca, yeah. Well, I wanted Bianca versus Bayley. Is how you want to go. I mean, that's because you're, number one, that you can have your cake and eat it too, because you can make something really big out of Bianca with a feud with Bayley. She meets up with Sasha, and right now she loses. In the meantime, Bayley ends up winning the Royal Rumble. She goes on, takes on Sasha. Maybe Bayley wins at WrestleMania, and then the next night or the next Friday or whatever they're on, Bianca challenges her then. There's a lot of great pieces in place. They could do a lot of fun stuff. The show opened up, if I can get my my notes. Oh yeah, by the way, if anybody's curious, dominant fashion tonight.
Yeah, you can. Well, I knew it was going to be a feast or famine situation for old Larson with my picks.
You had to take some risks.
Because I was going to, I was going to more or less pick all the same things as you. And that's I got no chance of winning then, so I had to take some chances.
Like Alexa.
You also held on. It's upside down though. You also are the first winner of the Going Into Raw Cup. Yes.
By how much? What was the point spread? So
with Orton's win, you end up winning by 24. You're at 24 points ahead.
We did our draft, our mock draft. You can go take a look at that. And now I've officially hold the going. Look, I'm like Ultimo Dragon right now.
You gotta add something to it. The trophy, the cup. You gotta put a cup on it. Actually,
Well, that's my task now. So the next pay-per-view, we will vie for this again via our draft. So good job, me. Well done. Although I did break it. I broke the title.
So not good job.
Not good job.
Bad job. Bad Steve.
Job, Steve.
Bad Steve. So kickoff show. There was one match. R-Truth versus Drew Gulak for the 24/7 title. It was pretty funny at the beginning. Drew was talking to little Jimmy and then kicked him out of the ring. In the end, though, R-Truth picked up the win, hitting a jackknife cover on Drew. And then now the match has ended. 24/7 rules are back in effect. Lucha House Party, Akira Tozawa. They run down the ringside area. There's some fighting and stuff. Drew runs over the commentary table and just says, R-Truth's hero, John Cena, sucks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that was it. And then Ali had a promo on the kickoff show as well, where he said, "Hey, Hurt Business, let's have a match. You take anybody from your faction, and you can even pick any one of us, and we'll have a match." I kind of feel like Ali should have at least got to choose who fights for Retribution. Maybe they would have had a better chance.
He should do this every time, and every time they choose Slapjack. Every time Slapjack just gets beat up. Oh, man. Pretty bad.
Another not so good night for Retribution.
Yeah, that didn't play out very well for them, did it?
No. And then the main show kicked off with Universal title bout, Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns.
This was a lot like the previous match. It was basically like the previous match, just probably 30% turned up with the violence, because there were two spots when it left us questioning if somebody, I mean, I guess we had this answer last year when Seth Rollins on the verge of murdering Bray Wyatt, the match was called off or whatever. Who got the win? Seth just got the win in that one? Is that how that worked?
No, I think he was DQ'd.
He was DQ'd. Okay. So at this Hell in a Cell.
Attempted murder.
So at this Hell in a Cell, it was an I Quit Hell in a Cell match. Jey was able to, you know, I mean, it was a lot of back and forth. Jey was putting up a decent fight. Roman had an amazing gold glove or gold gauntlet.
Yeah.
Looked amazing.
On his Superman punch hand.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. Well, then
So-
Jey had some cool gear.
I mean, he was wearing white. It wasn't gold.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you got to give him some credit. He had the white lay.
As a visual,
Yeah.
as the baby face,
Yeah.
going up against the heel is a good visual.
Yeah, it was all right.
Wasn't anything out of the ordinary? No, but given the circumstance, given the match, given the story, it looked good.
Yeah. So at one point, Jimmy, he gets like a leather strap from under the ring.
Jey, you mean?
Jey, sorry. Sorry, Jey. And he wraps it around Roman's neck a couple times and chokes him to basically so he loses consciousness. Problem with that is he can't say anything when he's asleep. So the match isn't over.
Yeah.
Jey is not the new Universal Champion.
No, because Roman never said I quit.
Right, exactly. So eventually Roman comes to, Jey gets a chair, he loads it up, Roman gives him a Superman punch. I mean, Jey ate, 3 spears in this thing?
At least 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3, I think. Yeah, 3.
So he takes over, he eventually takes over. He ends up sort of putting Jey's head in between the post and the ring steps. Is that right? And then he did like
he put the top part of the ring steps on the apron, and pinned Jey's head between those on the ring post. Yeah.
And then he does like the drive-by drop kick thing. So Jey is out. He's out.
Yeah.
So Roman drags his lifeless body back to the center of the ring, and he's about to he like grabs the steps, and he's the ref wants to end it. The ref wants to call it. It's like it's done.
Yeah.
And
Roman tosses the ref from the ring.
He's pissed off. He's like, no, you're not going to do that.
Because Jey didn't say the words.
He didn't say the words. I mean, Roman hadn't said the words earlier. They didn't toss the match then.
Yeah.
So, Roman wants to make sure Jey says these words. So, anyways, he grabs some steel steps, and he's about to. Is that before? He did that before or after Scrap Iron and all them came down? Yeah, the ref tries to stop it. Scrap Iron, Pat Buck, Jamie Noble, a couple of refs, they all come down. Roman basically like shoos them all away.
Yeah, yeah.
He gets some steel steps.
Yeah.
And he's about to murder his cousin because he hasn't said I quit because he's sleeping. And then Jimmy comes running in, drapes himself over Jey, and he's like, what's gotten into you? Do you have some of the dialogue here? Because
I have a little bit because he's going on. Hey, what's wrong with you? Says whatever's going on, we can work through it.
Yeah,
we're family. And Roman kind of starts getting emotional. He starts crying.
Yeah,
and he's sitting on the mat, kind of a hand over his face, crying.
And he's saying, Jimmy, "What have I become?"
Yeah, what have I become? And Jimmy's like, "Hey, this is all about family." Extends his hand out. Roman takes it, brings him in. And then holds there for a couple seconds, and then he goes right in, guillotine on Jimmy, chokes him out. And the visual of this was real. This is actually really well done in terms of directing. So Jimmy's getting choked out. You see a shot of him, and he's screaming at his brother to wake up, grabbing him, shaking him, trying to pull him over to him to help him.
Yeah.
And Jey comes to enough. He kind of makes a move to try to break it up. He's too beat up. He's too weak. To save his brother, he says, I quit. Yeah. So Roman eventually releases it, walks out of the ring, out of the cage, and then Atha and Sika are at the top of the ramp to meet Roman. They both embrace him. And then Roman poses with the title with both of them on the stage while Jey is just like despondent.
Yeah.
He is wrecked. He's crying. Jimmy's consoling him. They did a good job of selling the moment, how rough that is for the Usos.
Yeah.
And how basically indifferent Roman was at the top of the stage. Just a blank expression.
Same with Afa and Sika, though. I mean, they very quickly embraced Roman.
Yeah, yeah.
They're like, good job. Good job. Son.
Yeah. So I'm guessing on SmackDown we're going to have some sort of thing where Jay and Jimmy either pledge their loyalty to their tribal chief
They're gonna eat
or
some shit, man. They're going to eat some shit. Yep. Falling behind.
out of the family.
Yep. That's going to happen. So that should be some fun stuff. There's a lot of cool, interesting directions they can go here. You mentioned it during the stream. Will Jimmy and Jay conspire to try to bring Roman back around to his senses? Or will they get a taste of what it's like to feel some of this tribal chief power and be totally fine riding his coattails?
And get intoxicated by it.
Yes. So,
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting directions they can go with this. It's probably
For
one of the, if not the best story in WWE right now, is definitely one of them.
Oh, absolutely.
Speaking of not the best story in WWE right now, Elias
The other end
versus
of the
Jeff,
scale.
Yeah, Elias versus Jeff Hardy. Perfectly fine match. Would have been a really good Raw main event, or a decent Raw main event as a pay-per-view match. Actually, it wouldn't have been a good Raw main event because it ended in a DQ. However, not the DQ direction I saw coming, because it was Elias who's getting beat up. He goes ringside to get the guitar to hit Jeff Hardy with it. Jeff, though, kicks Elias in the gut and then hits him with the guitar.
Yeah.
Jeff, you had the upper hand.
We should have seen this coming. I mean, I went for Elias to get the win here. I didn't think it was going to go this way either. But, Jeff attempted this and missed last week on Raw. So, of course, his objective now, hit him with guitar before he could hit him. Jeff Hardy has such a storied career. He doesn't care about wins and losses anymore.
Well, he should. I mean, he's fighting for his name because Elias is trying to still go on about, hey, Jeff Hardy hit me with a car.
Well, yeah, that's a pretty big accusation, and he should be within his rights to get restitution.
He should, by winning a wrestling match. You going out there taking swings at people with guitars, it's not a good look, Jeff Hardy.
I know, and this gives further credence to Elias's theory that Jeff Hardy
exactly, and that's why Jeff Hardy needs to think about this and not do these things. That's my point.
He is who we think he is. He is the man who ran down Elias. I think that's been confirmed at this point.
We'll see.
Elias,
we'll
is
see.
the face
That would be a turn of events. If it was Jeff Hardy, maybe he bought like a Sheamus wig and wore it while he ran over Elias. Who knows?
Oh yeah. So
speaking of which, yeah,
we had a Tucky interview where he's asked, "How do you feel about this whole Miz thing?" I'm really angry. Oh yeah,
yeah. He's really angry. He basically raised his voice there too.
He did.
That match was next, and Otis has new music now.
Yeah, which you would have thought would have signaled a fairly easy day at the office. Unfortunately for him, he had a best friend who swerved him.
It was an easy day at the office for Otis, more or less. I mean, Morrison got involved a couple times, but Otis was dominating this match.
Yeah.
Yes, until the aforementioned friend, Tucky, turned on Otis. So Miz kicks Otis, sends him towards the ropes. Tucky's there. And earlier, Morrison tried to hit Otis with the big briefcase. Ref saw him, kicked him out. So Tucky grabs the briefcase, clocks Otis with it, and Miz sold it pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did, yeah.
Obvious, not in cahoots whatsoever. And that was solidified with the interview after the fact. Covers up Otis, gets the win. Miz is now Mr. Money in the Bank.
Let's be honest, man. Let's be honest. I know you and I have disagreed on this. Miz is a much more believable Money in the Bank contract holder than Otis.
I don't disagree with that point. I don't disagree with the point that he is more believable. He's got a legacy. I understand that. That being said, it was under the assumption that Drew was going to retain and Roman obviously going to retain. And just the way they've booked The Miz of late, I don't find him, even though he is a more credible contract holder than Otis, I don't find him still legitimate enough to cash in on Drew. I just didn't.
This is a fun conversation to have. Let me ask you this.
All right.
Out of all the Money in the Bank contract holders, what is the ratio of people who you find believable, but and those who you don't. Like Sandow. Sandow, I think, actually could have been was Sandow champion when was he holding the contract when? So I know he cashed in on John Cena and lost embarrassingly. Was John Cena holding the big gold belt at the time?
Oh, I don't recall.
Because Sandow could have been legitimate if it was the big gold belt when the big gold belt meant a whole lot of nothing. When it was like really Jack Swagger, Alberto Del Rio, Sheamus, when it was those guys, I feel like Sandow could have been the guy who was on the precipice of being that kind of champion, but not WWE champion. Baron Corbin, maybe also that. If they wanted to really push Baron, like he's been de-pushed pretty big time.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe there. Like Anderson, I know they really were high on him. I never saw that. I mean, Swagger won it, and we see how bad that was.
Yeah.
Like, I think he was a totally undeserving Money in the Bank guy.
Yeah.
But it's not uncommon for them to come. I mean, Miz originally, I don't know if a lot of people really saw that as, are you believable? I mean, even his WrestleMania, it was like one of the worst WrestleManias of all time, in part. Because, his match, his main event spotlight was basically just fuel for Rock versus Cena the next year.
Oh, that's totally what it was, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and in fact, he lost it the very next month.
Yeah, to John Cena.
So, Miz is an opportunist. He does have legacy. And I think that on the Raw side of things, not even close on SmackDown. That's never going to happen.
Never going to happen.
Roman has a tight grip on that. That's never going to... He embarrassed Braun Strowman a couple weeks ago on SmackDown.
Oh, yeah.
Over on the Raw side of things, there's a lot of fluidity. And that's perfect for Miz's character as an opportunist.
I understand that.
That's always been my point.
I understand all that. And I hope you understand my point. That's the way he's been booked, especially of late, where he and Morrison are a bit on the bumbling side. In fact, dude, watch the whole stuff with the van and Braun Strowman again, all right? For months, they've basically been portrayed as clowns, all right? They have been. Morrison lost to Otis in like 2.5 minutes. They have not been threats in the ring. They have not been. Ever since they lost the tag titles at Mania. They have not been threats.
That's good. You're bringing up good evidence here. I'm not going to refute the evidence.
I know. This isn't coming out of nowhere.
But I do look at these guys as, when you have that kind of legacy, it's really easy to reestablish it.
I know, but that's not something you could do right away, which is I'm happy they didn't have Miz cash in tonight, because if they had him cash in, like, oh, suddenly he's someone I need to take seriously after months of you telling me this guy was basically a joke.
If he would have cashed in on Drew McIntyre, if Drew had won and he was in the state he was in, it'd totally be believable. He came off the side of the
Well, of course it'd be
cell.
believable, because Orton would have kicked the crap out of him, not anything Miz did.
Right. Well, storyline, you're right. You're absolutely right. But storyline-wise, like, the ingredients are there. There are no ingredients on SmackDown
next time,
for Roman.
Whenever Miz had to cash in, I'd just be, he's losing this.
Yeah, that's how you always feel about chicken shit heels, though. Like when Jericho had the titles, had both the titles. That's how I always felt. And sure enough, he was just around for Triple H to take that title off him. So and those are the kind of situations that Vince does put his wrestlers in sometimes. He does take stories in those directions sometimes. So that's why I thought it was a possibility. So anyways, Miz is now, I mean, that does throw, like you said earlier, Raw's got a ton of heels. So I don't know how that's going to play out.
With the heel champ now.
A heel champ and a heel Money in the Bank contract holder. Everybody's
and a heel U.S. champ.
Yeah. Is he?
Well, I guess Hurt Business is now kind of a tweener. It depends. Like if Hurt Business are going up against Retribution, their faces. Otherwise, they're heels, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess by definition, that's tweener territory.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, Miz and Morrison had an interview afterwards. Miz again puts out his bona fides why he rightfully should be Mr. Money in the Bank. He said he did what was necessary for this business to thrive. This briefcase has meaning and purpose. I won't squander it. It's a golden opportunity. I've done it before. I'm putting the WWE and Universal champions on notice. And then Miz says Otis took Money in the Bank and his best friend for granted. That's when Tucky walks in. Says, this isn't about you, Miz. Tucky says that he and Otis were supposed to be a team. But Tucky says, I always carried the load. Hey, Tucky, get the tag to Otis. hit the Caterpillar to finish. He said, I did everything for Otis. I encouraged him to ask Mandy out. I did everything for the team. And for what? To always be an afterthought. Truth is, Otis can't function without him. He can't tie his shoes without me around. And then Otis runs in, just plows through Miz and Morrison.
Yeah.
And then he and Tucky start brawling backstage. So we have one potential issue here. And in WWE eyes, I'm sure it's minor. You got Otis on SmackDown.
Minor. It's a afterthought. Yeah. That is not an issue. But go ahead.
Otis is on SmackDown.
Yeah.
Tucky is on Raw.
Yeah. I mean, you would think. I mean, they have to get Otis back on Raw. It's where everything that Otis is. They'd have to get him back on Raw. They have to do that. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, man. Otis fighting Tucky at this point, with the way they booked Otis, even though they book him strong in the ring, he's not really booked as he's not really written as like a relatable human character. He is a comedy gag. That's sort of where he belongs, just in a feud with Tucky. We'll see if that changes him or adds any dimension to his character. I don't know that it will. I don't know that I want it to, because I like his stuff.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I don't know either.
Let me ask you this, just in generalities. Do you like the briefcase on Miz, or do you wish they would have kept it on Otis?
I mean, I kind of feel like it's a lose-lose regardless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
a lot of that's based on how because especially
if
now.
AJ Styles had been in the same spot as Miz.
Great. That's great.
Yeah.
I think that's he would have been a good choice. I think it would have been a really good choice if you just wanted to begin with.
I like it better on Miz just because it gives you more options. I think you could build them back up.
Yeah, if they take their time. I mean, I guess it's possible, but that has to start Monday. That has to start Monday. But then you got a heel champ. So you got to wait till Orton drops that belt. Unless Miz says, to hell with it. My championship's, out of kayfabe, if you will. I want that title. I don't care who's holding it. But cash in.
Yeah.
So who knows? I don't know.
That'd be some interesting symmetry there anyways, because Orton is who he cashed on in the first place. Now,
here's the thing. If it ends up being he cashes in on Orton RKOs him and wins, then just keep it. Then, I mean, a lot of this could be hindsight. If Miz tries to cash in, fails, then I just would have thought, just keep it on Otis.
That would have been, that'd be terrible. Yeah.
Do the thing where he cashes in on Roman. Yeah, he gets destroyed, but he's honorable in defeat.
Yeah.
He takes his butt whipping, but he comes out looking pretty good because he doesn't back down. He doesn't give up. You can build Otis a bit that way, going up against basically the unstoppable force that is Roman. Cashes in, puts in a good fight, good 12-minute match, loses.
Yeah.
As long as he didn't get decimated, as long as he didn't get squashed.
Yeah.
That's fine. He could have been fine.
Raw should be interesting tomorrow because of all this stuff, though. So after that, we had SmackDown Women's Championship
on the
line. Sasha Banks versus Bayley. Like we mentioned at the beginning, there's just so much creativity in this match. We had, to start things off, Bayley comes out with her chair. And Sasha drop kicked the chair out of the cell before it closed. So then Bayley was out her best friend chair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, this is one of those matches you gotta see a lot of the stuff to believe it. Some of the things that stood out to me, there was that great Meteora. They sort of were fighting over a table on the outside, and Bayley had collapsed one side of the legs, so it sort of functioned as a ramp. Obviously, she wanted to put Sasha through that. Well, Sasha ended up running up the table and hitting a Meteora up against the cage, and got her in. Hit another. I like how strong she's using that Meteora because it is a really fun move.
Yeah, she employed it several times tonight.
There was some kendo sticks connecting from the ring steps to the cage, to the cell wall that we saw. Was there a a suplexer there? Because there was two.
No, they tried to go do a suplex, and then eventually I think Bayley hit a drop toe hold.
Oh, that's right. That looked great. We saw that great sunset flip bomb. Into the chair, which was great.
That was fantastic that Bayley did to Sasha. That was great.
Yeah. What stood out to you? What were some of the spots you liked in this match?
I mean, you named a lot of them. Sasha's sell on the rose plant on the floor was fantastic.
That was great, yeah.
I mean, the finish was fantastic because not only there was a couple of reference. There was one reference I thought to their Brooklyn match where Sasha has Bayley in the bake statement about halfway through, I guess. Not exactly early. She did have it in her early, but it wasn't the reference where they're against the ropes. And we saw in that match, in the Brooklyn match, Bayley in that match had a busted up hand, so she reaches for the rope and Sasha kicks it and then pushes off the rope to roll it over. They were about to kind of reference that bit because in this match, obviously, there's no rope breaks.
Yeah.
Instead, Bayley just kind of escapes out of the ring. But about halfway through, Sasha tries to choke out Bayley using the chair like she did on SmackDown this past Friday where she signed the deal. Bayley escapes that and then dumps Sasha trips her up, dumps Sasha face first on there. But then they take your traditional bank statement, and then Sasha takes the chair, puts that around Bayley's head, and then is choking her out with the bank statement, and then stomping on the chair with her other foot.
Yeah.
Even after Bayley taps, she's still stomping on the chair.
Oh, it was a really great finish.
It was really creative, cathartic.
Yeah.
Because Sasha was really selling the passion of, I want to beat the hell out of Bayley.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it. I win. You know what? I won. That's great. And I get the title. But this feels pretty good kicking this chair into Bayley's neck, you know?
Yeah.
And she was really selling that.
Yeah.
It was good. It was really good.
It was really fun stuff, man. I gave this a 5-star rating in my Steve notes because, God damn it, this was so good.
It was damn good.
Yeah.
And there were twists and turns at any point in the last third, if either of them had won, I'd have been like,
it would have made total sense, yeah.
Because the storytelling was that good.
Yeah. That sunset flip bomb was so unexpected and so wonderfully performed.
Oh, I know. It was so good. It was so good. It was so good. Yeah. And after that, Hurt Business interview, MVP is asked, who did you choose to face Retribution? And since Lashley's in his gear, Charlie assumes it's Lashley. And MVP was like, hey, Lashley is CEO of the Hurt Business. He's the Almighty, and like the legendary kings of old, he doesn't order us into battle. He leads us into battle. That was so good.
That was really good stuff, yeah.
That was so good. And then he's asked, who have you chosen to put up against Lashley? And at first they're like, T-Bar. No, the one with the bad mask.
Shelton says, the one with the bad mask, yeah.
Yeah. And then they eventually decide on Slapjack. And then MVP responds directly to Ali and says, hey, because Ali said earlier that Hurt Business is just like WWE driven by profit. MVP says, yeah, sure, we're driven by profit, but we're also driven by inflicting pain on people. And MVP says, let's make it interesting. Let's do a one-on-one match. No one in anybody's corner. And also let's put up the U.S. title. And then Lashley's like, all right, I'll bring out anybody. I'll be waiting in the ring. Let's fight. And that was next, and it was Slapjack. And Slapjack, try as he might, is not enough to best the Almighty. At least he didn't elbow his way into a hurt lock.
Here's one of them. Here's another one. Yeah.
Go ahead, take my arms.
Yeah. It was, Slapjack, obviously, probably the least powered up member of the group.
I don't know, man. The way he's been hitting the gym, that might change. Shane Thorne looked great.
He looked pretty big. Yeah, he looked great. He did look really good. But, he was adjusting his mask the entire time when he was in the ring. That didn't help things.
They got to lose those masks, man.
Yeah, dude. They should have gone with, face paint or something cool. I don't know.
Well, they do have face paint underneath the mask. They all have face paint. Oh,
yeah, that's right. Well,
they all do. Well, I don't know about Shane Thorne because his mask
is pretty all-encompassing, yeah.
Face, but Dijak and Mia Yim and Dio Madden all have face paint.
Like Dio Madden and T-Bar, they both have really good looks about them. And I'm not saying that Shane Thorne doesn't, but it's obvious that those are your two standout guys. Mia Yim is terrific. And then Shane Thorne is just the guy who is around to eat pins. But seemingly at this point, the entirety of Retribution is around to eat pins. Hopefully that'll change at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, this is some bad strategy from Mustafa Ali.
It's all just being made up as they go along, and they're just booking him into the ground.
I know.
And it could be really cool stuff. But, I mean, Ali, he's great in everything. But the bottom line is, at a certain point, it's not going to matter. You need to get some wins. You need to establish.
Well, here's the thing. As good as he could be from a performance aspect, like his promo, he was selling that.
Yeah, it's great.
When he was fleeing the ring tonight because Hurt Business runs in, he was really selling that. From a performance aspect, he's great, but without wins and without, because like the last couple weeks, Retribution looked a bit foolish.
Yeah, they have. Here's the thing too.
Performance can't trump that, you know. If you book a faction to look weak, they're going to look weak.
It can't. It can't. Lashley wins, and then Retribution immediately hits the ring. They're out there with him for a good 30 seconds, and Lashley isn't really even breaking a sweat. He's not in much danger.
No, he fends them all off.
And then Hurt Business comes down. So if you want to do something, you have maybe Retribution, like, I don't know, the B team, build like a wall at the entrance so that Hurt Business can't help him, and you really destroy the guy. You don't have Lashley single-handedly destroy everybody like the Fiend single-handedly destroy all of Retribution last week. They don't care about these guys. It's clown show. It's what it is. Anyway.
Yeah, virtually.
Then we had our main event. Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship.
So over here on Wikipedia, they're telling me that this match was 30 minutes and 35 seconds, and it felt that.
Drew versus Randy?
Yeah.
I thought that the pay-per-view, I felt like for whatever reason, I don't know why, I kind of feel like it was the pace of the pay-per-view. Like, the other stuff I thought was so good, and right before this we had like a really short, wonky squash match. This match, going from place to place, it didn't feel as lethargic as the ambulance match. So I don't know. I actually kind of enjoyed this match. I don't know if I gave it 4 stars. It probably deserves like 3.5. But you know, they took some pretty. I'll give it 3 3/4. They took some pretty crazy bumps in this match. Well, at least Drew.
Oh yeah, there were some good spots. There was just a section, in the middle where, they were trying to make this as physical as they could.
Yeah.
In your typical methodical Orton fashion.
Yeah.
And in comparison to the prior two, and maybe if we hadn't had 2 really good Hell in a Cell matches before this one,
that could be.
Maybe my opinion would be different because the storytelling in the first one was really good.
Yeah.
It was methodical. It wasn't fast paced by a stretch of the imagination, but the storytelling was so good.
The storytelling is really good. Yeah, you're invested.
Engrossed
in you. Yeah.
And then Sasha and Bayley, there was just no let up.
Yeah, it was terrific.
On top of the incredible storytelling, there was just a really great match, and then this was good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it didn't have the immediate hook of the other 2 until basically the last third.
Yeah. So Randy disguised. He loves to disguise himself these days and stuff.
Again, disguising yourself and then not
and
benefiting.
It did nothing.
From it.
It did nothing.
No,
so he was disguised as like a production guy. Tries to attack Drew before Drew even gets in the cell. Drew, it doesn't work. Drew gets the drop on him. But it's a pretty brutal match. So the big spots here. Let's see.
Well, look how the huge turning point is Randy at one point. He produces some bolt cutters from underneath the ring.
Yeah.
Goes and cuts the chain off. The door goes through. He and Drew fight out on the stage and the ringside area for a bit. Orton eventually gets the upper hand, and then he looks up. And again, this is where experience matters. Orton looks up, sees opportunity. He goes and climbs the top of the cage, and there's a really good shot where he's up top, kind of looking over the edge. And Drew, they got the long lens to make the cage look like it was 100 feet high.
Yeah.
And then you cut to Drew, and there's nerves. He's never been in that situation before. He's like, well, I'm going to win. I got to do this. So he climbs up. They brawl for a bit up there. Somehow Randy Orton found a toy lightsaber up there. Piece of pipe.
Yeah.
Takes a swing. Drew ducks it. Eventually, though, Orton does hit Drew with a piece of pipe. Climbs back down. They brawl on the side. And then Orton knocks Drew off, sends him through the announce table. And try as he might, that's kind of like the one bit of offense that Drew couldn't overcome.
Yeah, because he was really messed up. He had like a big glob of blood right here. He looked in really bad state. He was selling it really, really good. So Drew starts crawling back to get inside the ring, and Randy's just stalking him the whole time. They get in. Randy goes for an RKO. Drew hits a Claymore, but Randy immediately rolls out. Drew's able to get him back in, goes for another Claymore. Randy ducks, hits his RKO, and gets 3 on that. So we've got a new WWE champion, and Miz did not cash in because Randy looked just fine.
Yeah, he looked totally fine.
Yeah.
Drew looked beat to hell. Randy Orton could have another 3 matches tonight.
That's right.
The way he looked, man.
Yeah. So I don't know. I thought it was a pretty entertaining Hell in a Cell. I thought there was enough. I'm glad they didn't pad it out with like more matches. I'm glad they kept it to what they did. It gave everybody time to breathe. Maybe in the case of the main event, too much time to breathe. But yeah. So there you go. That's our review for Hell in a Cell. Twitch chat, if you want to stick around, we'll answer some of your questions. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it. Until next time, we'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.
Be a part of the best pro wrestling podcast today at patreon.com/Steven Larson. Enjoy tons of bonus videos, including patron-only live shows, gameplay, and vintage 10 for the wins, access to podcast question threads, the Friendo Care Package, and so much more. Support Going In Raw today at patreon.com/Steven Larson.